and welcome to the 100 Points in 30 Days Summit, where we address individuals who need to add 100 points on their credit score in 30 days or improve their business credit score in 30 days. Now, I've rounded up several of the top professionals in the niche of personal and business credit education, as well as finance to help with the issue. My name is Emmanuel Michael. I'm a former radio host of a top entrepreneur show in Mississippi, Texas, and Tennessee, and I'm here with a gentleman all the way from Jackson, Mississippi. This guy is an attorney. He has a division of his practice that specializes in personal credit or credit restoration, among other things. He knows 100% about what it takes to improve your personal credit score, as well as how to grow and build a business. His practice areas are personal injury, business law, criminal law, civil rights, among other things that he practiced with his company. He also has a nonprofit 501c3, which we'll get into here in a minute. And most importantly, he loves to help people, and he's helping me bring this information to you. So help me welcome Mr. Attorney Charles Irvin of Irvin Law. Mr. Irvin, how you doing, sir?
Great, man. Hey, look, happy holidays first and foremost to everybody watching this. And happy holidays to you and your family.
Hey, man, I definitely appreciate that. Happy holidays to you as well. And I know, speaking of, as we jump right into this thing, the holiday season, a lot of people, I just left the store, left the mall doing some running around and shopping. And I noticed a lot of people pulling those little plastic cards out.
It's jam-packed, brother.
Yeah.
It's jam-packed. One thing we want them to do, though, is check not only the due date, but check your purchase date. And look on your credit card bill. I know we're getting ready to jump into some credit talk, but there's one thing that they can do right away and stop watching those. Make sure you're watching your ratios. Don't go out there and spend it all on Christmas and not be able to get that ratio back down.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, just tell us, as we get started, Charles, let's talk to the people about, your specializations or your specialized areas that you utilize with your law firm, as well as why you guys chose to go into the credit restoration industry.
Sure. That's a great question. Well, I've been practicing for 20 years, and what I've seen is in our community especially, but not just for the Black community, but all over the state of Mississippi, credit affects every area of a person's life. Their ability to get milk and bread, their ability to pay rent or get a mortgage, their ability to buy a car, even their ability to pay legal fees. Just to be honest, one of the issues that we run into all the time is that balancing act. And it's not just people with bad credit that have to go through that balancing act. And what do I mean when I say balancing act? So there's a finite amount of money coming into a household every 30 days. Mm-hmm. Within that, you've got living expenses. You've got basic governmental things you got to pay for, like taxes. Then you got food, clothing, all those things. Those are basic expenses. And then there are the other things, holiday shopping, entertainment, a whole list of things. And so when I was looking to go back into private practice, I wanted to find a way to be able to impact the community of Mississippi, all 82 counties and beyond. So we figured out a strategy to be able to work with people on their credit in Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, and Arkansas. And so the goal of what we do, we call it credit restoration, but a large part of it is educating the people in the community on the steps to good credit, not waiting until that due date to make that payment. Because if you waited to then, they've got some compound interest off of you, and it's probably going to bring your score down by about 30 points. So just educating them on those things. And then we started doing new home buyer seminars as an outgrowth of that. And then we moved into business credit. And so that division is there to serve the community more so than us, because what we want to do is we want people to have healthy credit scores, because then we can help them start new businesses. And, it's a long journey, but I think process-wise, you hear people say you want to affect the community. Well, we do. Irvin Law wants to affect the community. So how do we do that? We start with the personal credit. We get that good. Then we start with showing them how to form a business or a nonprofit. Once we get that done, then we can teach them how to grow that. And so it's a multi-step process, but we want to be involved at every step.
Excellent. That's good. Now, you said something a minute ago that you've been practicing for 20 years. So how did you get started? What was the first area you went into? Did you start out with all the areas of like criminal law and business practice? Or did you choose just one and you kind of compounded from there?
Actually, I started with contract law. I was talking to my staff earlier this morning when I took them out for holiday breakfast. Long time ago, when I was a second-year law student, my first job at a law firm was working on Arena League football contracts. And that kind of exposed me to the myth that all athletes are rich, because those contracts were for anywhere between $35,000 and $50,000 for 12-game schedule. And that was it. So they needed another job, So that was my foray into law, and I got good at working on those contracts, and that's why I kept the business line going, is because I've been exposed to it for so long. After that, I started doing criminal law, and I've done that for right at 20 years now, federal and state. And so on that business side, that's a huge umbrella, and so that's where I started bringing in other sub areas to focus on.
Great. Now, the credit restoration division of Irvin Law, what are some of the main challenges that come across your desk when you're helping a new client?
Well, one is the trust factor, because we do have to roll back the layers to the onion. We got to peel it down. We got to do an audit. We got to look at what you have going on. How much money do you have going out? Where is it going to? What type of credit lines do you have? Is it consumer credit? Is it major purchases? What is it? So when we do that audit, we're trying to build trust with the clients and let them know, one, we know what we're doing. But two, you want to be able to add value to their situation. And so a lot of times it's giving them the nuggets, as we call them in the trade, letting them know what the ratios are, how you look at a credit score. Get you some monitoring so you can check for identity theft, and you can check and make sure that you're doing the things that you're supposed to be doing. And then we go to work on doing disputes if that's needed, showing them how to structure pay downs so that it's advantageous to them, so they can get bad marks off their credit. Now, we don't have a magic pen, Emmanuel. We can't make some things go away, but we can massage the situation. We can manage the situation to get you in a advantageous position to bring the score up. Because ultimately, once you start bringing that score up and you learn how to utilize your credit to your advantage, then you can get into equity builders, buying property, buying houses as opposed to renting, investments. But that's a long way down the road if you've never been taught how to manage the basics of your bank account.
Gotcha. So, that's great, man, because that sounds like something that, a lot of listeners will probably be interested in, because, what you're basically saying is you're teaching people how to leverage their credit to build assets.
That's right. That's right. I mean, because, in the Black community, if we're being honest, we are one of the biggest consumer classes on the face of the planet. We buy everybody else's stuff, but it's stuff. It doesn't have intrinsic value that's going to grow. It's going to be depreciating. We want things that are going to appreciate over time, so that ultimately you have generational wealth. That's the goal for all of us. And that starts with learning how to utilize your credit to leverage your situation towards equity.
Great. Now, do you assist clients if they try credit repair themselves or use another company prior to seeking your help? Do you work on those type of files?
All the time, because a lot of times, marketing is a large part of this. And so you have some organizations I won't name, they are on 24/7. They're on satellite radio, they're on the internet. Once you start looking up, they tag you, and so they pop up on everything that you look at. And they do volume business. I like to think about them as a stick of dynamite. They go in and blow up the credit score. we're more like a surgeon. We want to be precise. We want to do it with precision so that when we do get some items off, when that score does go up, you know exactly why, and you're able to keep it going over time. Because we don't want to have you as a client forever as a credit client, because if we have you as a credit client forever, we fail. We want to be able to transition you into business credit or general counsel for your business, doing compliance issues, those type things. So the goal is, and the answer to your question is yes, we have worked with people who work with other credit companies because we do it a little bit differently.
Gotcha. Now, what advice would you give someone that's looking to start a business, but they have less than perfect credit?
Start.
Just start.
Just start. I mean,
don't let your personal credit stop you.
No, because that's just an obstacle. A long time ago when I was in high school, I was in this organization called Try High Y. And we used to have a session for the newbies every spring about obstacles. If you're running an obstacle course, you do not stop to look at the obstacle. You just go over it, around it, under it, or through it. So if that means if you got $10 in your pocket and you have a great idea, work on that great idea until that $10 turns into $100.
That's right.
But if you don't start, it's not making any money.
Well, that kind of leads into my next question. What in your past experiences dealing with people from a legal perspective with cases, helping people or individuals with personal credit challenges, what are some of the main reasons why people fail?
Because they stop. So on the first question you asked me, well, what do they need to do to start? And the answer is start.
Yeah.
You only fail if you stop. KFC, Amazon, we go down some of the big boys. They all became wealthy much later in life, but it wasn't because they did it right later in life. It was because they failed a bunch of times and they learned a lot of stuff. Failure, really, when you talk about going into business. So this is more about mindset and how you situate your mindset. Do you want to work 30 years for a gold watch, or do you want to work for yourself and build something? Because that watch is still going to need new batteries. It's going to break. Why not just get out there with and try your vision? Be faithful in tending to your garden, and it will grow. It might not grow overnight, but when you plant a seed, you don't see anything but dirt.
Right. Now, let me ask you a question about a little of your internal practices with Irvin Law. Let's say a person is going through your program and, the credit reporting agencies refuse to take a negative item off. It may not be their item or could be their item. You may find some discrepancies on how it was being reported. Mm-hmm. At that point, I know this, from past experiences, a lot of companies that deal with credit repair, credit restoration, they just stop at that point. This is where I can see it being advantageous to utilize Irvin Law, because you guys are actually able to take that company to court, right?
That's right.
Something you do with that client.
That's right. One of the advantages, one of the biggest advantages that I saw in thinking about starting a credit division was, how do we help those with the unique cases? And you mentioned some of them. What if there's an item on their credit that doesn't belong to them and they refuse to take it off? Well, we know that there are federal protections in place that speak directly to that. Everything on there has to be correct. It's got to be verified. If they don't want to do it, we make them do it.
Right.
It sounds simple, but it's a complex process. But at the end of the day, you have to let them know that you're willing to take them to court. Most of the credit organizations out there, and this is no knock to them, it's just that we're uniquely situated. They're going to have to hire out to do that, and so that runs their cost up. We can do it in-house.
Gotcha. That's great. Now, hypothetical situation here. Actually, it's happened to somebody that I know. Young lady had an account with a real estate account, roughly about $12,000. She sold the house. The bank, not gonna, well, I can call the bank name Wells Fargo, but the bank actually reported on her credit report that she had a charge off of about 1.2 million. Now, when we first looked at it, I said, well, maybe they just moved the decimal too far because they messed up. But she addressed it with them, and this lady had an 815 credit score. Okay, one of my clients, she had an 815 credit score, and they dropped her credit about 120 points. About 120 points, her credit score dropped. Long story short, they apologized for it. They said, we apologize. That happened for a whole year, but she still has not rebounded from that issue and the error on her report. And I know that could be an isolated incident, but, there are a lot of people who, through the Wells Fargo scandal, they've had bank accounts open up in their name, mortgages open up in their name, or, just a horror story of issues and situations that's happened. What can Irvin Law, what advice can Irvin Law do for those people? What can you provide? Kind of services could Irvin Law provide for those type of clients, for those unique situations that's affecting their credit?
Depending on the jurisdiction, you probably would want to take that person and have them get in court. Because if a year has passed and they know it's an egregious area, egregious enough for them to apologize, then you're probably looking at bad faith more so than a credit issue. And so bad faith is something that definitely would need to be handled by an attorney that understands probably the duality between that effect on her credit score and the actions of the bank itself. And bad faith is not a stretch for Wells Fargo, because there are at least 2 class actions I can think of off the top of my head where they've been held in account for some of their less than stellar business practices. And that sounds like something that falls in there. One thing that I would say, because you're talking about someone who's been in that situation, keep records. Make sure you keep records, paper records, preferably, that you can scan and then make them digital, but have them somewhere safe. Because if she can show documentation of the steps that she took in her process, that makes her case much stronger.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, you have a lot of people that's been, it may not be, a bank, it may be just a regular company that's extending credit, where identity theft has really, really hurt a lot of people too. A lot of folks get hit with identity theft. They don't monitor their credit. They get themselves in a situation. They're ready to go purchase a car or home, and they realize that they're a victim. And that's the fastest growing crime right now is identity theft. Definitely with some of the Equifax hacks and Netflix and Target and all the major companies out here that's been affected by these egregious acts. Individuals' information is being brought and sold all across the world right now. So what advice would you, as attorney and with Irvin Law Credit Division, what advice would you give a person who's been a victim of identity theft and how to rebound from that?
Well, just know, first of all, it's probably going to take you about 3 to 5 years to get fully recovered from it. And so that doesn't really help the people who've already been hit by identity theft, but they need to involve their local police department as soon as they even get the thought in their head, so that they can get police reports, because those police reports will be vital in supporting any claim that you have against creditors that you know nothing about. And so as soon as you find that out, you want to do that. Plus you want to, for those who haven't been in that situation and those who have, they know this better than most. You want to have a good monitoring setup. Then, there's a lot of different companies out there, so I'm not going to name any names, but somebody that's reputable that monitors credit. We're talking between $9 at $19 a month. And, you know, you have some people say, man, that's a lot to pay. It's better to have that than wake up one morning and have 4 different Home Depot accounts in a tri-state area, which happened to a client of mine back in the 2000s. They thought he was a general contractor and he was a regular desk worker. But somebody else was using his identity to hit Home Depots.
Oh, wow. Wow. Wow.
And so that led us on a wild goose chase between the Memphis Police Department, Mississippi Bureau of Investigation, just all over the South, trying to piece together what happened to this man's identity, because that put him in a situation where he was no longer able to buy. It was hard for him to rent. It affected everything about his livelihood.
Wow. That's amazing. Now, let me ask you, I got 2 more questions for you, Mr. Irving. Because you have seen I think you've seen both over your 20-year period. Do you suggest bankruptcy or credit repair? And in what situation would you advise a person to go bankruptcy and advise a person to go the credit repair route?
Well, I would initially, counsel anyone facing financial hurdles like that to try and do credit repair first and have bankruptcy as a very last resort, because it's going to affect you for a number of years once you file it. It will help clear up the immediate concern. And usually I don't practice in bankruptcy, but so I don't want anybody to feel like I'm giving them concrete advice. This is just my observation, that bankruptcy is for unique situations, houses, large medical bills, acts of God that didn't get covered by insurance, things like that. Everything else, it may be like pulling teeth with a pair of wire pliers, and it's gonna hurt. But let's restore, let's repair, and renew the credit rather than just take bankruptcy as a first resort.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, this is the silver bullet. This is the question that everybody's waiting for.
Okay.
If you had a new client that needed to improve his or her credit score by 100 points in 30 days, what advice would you give them, and what steps would you advise them to take in order to achieve that goal?
When I do their audit, I'm gonna tell them to focus on getting their ratios down, meaning how many store cards versus big credit cards. Get those ratios down as low as possible right away. Now, don't go and just start cutting off credit cards, because that's gonna turn you into an infant. We want you running instead of walking, instead of crawling. So don't interpret that to mean let's go to the company and cancel cards. Now, you can cut the card up and pay it off, but let's keep that line open. But we want to get those numbers down as quick as possible. That's the first thing, and that's going to take most of the 100 days. The second thing is, let's check on those due dates and find out the effective date that it's going to hit your credit, because they roll those dates, and that could get you 30 of those points right there. So we want to look at those dates and start paying early. Preferably, if you make a charge, let's pay it off within 15 instead of 20 to 30, and that'll get you some 30 points right there. Then we want to comb over the reports and see if there are any errors. If there are errors, we go ahead and we right away send them in. They'll correct them if you show proof. That's why it's so important to keep those records and documentation, because if you can show them the proof, then poof, that's gone. That's maybe another 15 to 45 points right there. How many more points I need to get you? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So if we do those things together, you're talking 100 points in good amount of time.
Okay. Well, Mr. Charles Irvin, I definitely appreciate your time and opportunity that you've given us today. I know you're a very busy man. You could have been anywhere in the world, but you decided to give these nuggets to our audience here at 100points in 30days.com. Go ahead and tell the people where they can find you on social media, your address, phone number, if you want to put that out, but definitely give some information on social media, how they can follow you and get in contact with your company.
Sure. We're on Facebook, Irvin Law, PLLC. Our website is www.irvin-law.com. And we're on Instagram. I'm on LinkedIn. You can find me just about anywhere on the web. If you need to call in, 601-340-6800.
Hey, man, we definitely appreciate it. Folks, thank you all for tuning in. I've been with attorney Charles Irvin of Irvin Law here at 100pointsin30days.com. And tune in to our next interview where we got more tips, strategies, and insights to help you get those 100 points in 30 days. Bye for now.